In 3, 2, 1, and now we're live. We're live, Vittorio. You can go ahead.
Hi, good morning to everyone. Thank you for participating. As usual, we will wait a couple of minutes to allow everyone to join. And in the meanwhile, we will start sharing our screen. Thank you.
I think you can start with the introduction, Vittorio.
Thank you, Martina. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining, and we are very happy to host this session, and we're very glad to see you here. First of all, I would like to thank you, BDVA, for their organization and for the valuable help and support that they are bringing us. The name of the session is Data-Driven AI for Financial Services, and it is sponsored by the FinTech project. Usually, the first thing that comes into your mind when thinking about financial sector and financial services is money. And that's because money are indeed the main driver for innovation in the financial sector and in financial services. And that's because they are also the main objective of financial institutions is to maximize their profits and increase their efficiency. An example of that are the banks, where they foster technological innovation to increase their revenues and reduce the risks and the costs. Indeed, new technological challenges new technologies are challenging the traditional business models. And a couple of examples of that are the way in which customers' interaction and middle and back office operations are changing, and more specifically, how the entire value chain of the financial institutions is evolving and has been challenged by these new technologies. Indeed, the vision of the financial institutions is digital, and it relies on technological innovation. A clear example of that are the fintech companies that are dramatically changing and disrupting the environment of financial institutions, whereas as emerging actors, they are bringing innovation and they are modifying the traditional business models of the financial institutions. Here you have an example of how the financial sector is changing and is evolving. You can see that the market share of fintechs in the last years is increasing. It's still very limited, but the real main consequence that they have on the financial sector overall is the innovation and the new technology that they are bringing. And indeed, the banks are trying to innovate and modify their business models in order to follow this path. Why the session of today? Because we want to provide a comprehensive picture of these modifications and innovation of the financial sector environment. And we want to give you perspective from all the different stakeholders that are within this environment. Indeed, we will talk about the fintech perspectives, their opportunities, the innovation hubs, the acceleration programs, and so on and so forth. We will then go with the AI hub as a bridge between the companies and the financial institutions and the banks. Then we will present some real-life scenarios from the banking sectors that will show you how banks are implementing these new technologies. Why Infinitech? Because Infinitech is a mean and an instrument that brings innovation, and we hope that it will foster the innovation and it will help and support the financial sector to embrace this digital transformation. And also because Infinitech is a comprehensive project in which all the different stakeholders that financial institutions have are comprehended. And here you see all the different speakers that we have today. I will be the moderator of this session, and Giselle and Lucille from Finance Innovation will support me in being the chair. Then the first speaker will be Maurizio Ferraris from GFT, and he will explain you better how Infinitech works, what is Infinitech, and how it is a mean for innovation. Then Martin Serrano will present opportunities for fintechs and the differences among fintechs and banks. Then Francisco Esteban, CEO of Insomnia, will discuss about, again, innovation in the fintech companies, more specifically about Open Innovation Hub, acceleration programs, and so on and so forth. Marco Rottoloni from Abilab will explain what is the AI hub and what is the bridge between the banks and the financial institutions and the companies, also giving some clear examples of innovative trends and applications that are, let's say, hot topic in the financial sector. Then there will be Claudia from Bank of Slovenia that will present the first real-life scenario and a use case from the Infinitech project. And then there will be Ramon Martin that will, from CaixaBank, will present another use case in the banking sector. At the end, we'll have, we assume that we'll have 20 minutes of Q&A. And for this reason, I ask you to ask your questions through the WOVA chat. We will gather all the questions and we will ask all the questions to the speakers at the end of the presentation. Here are the general rules, and each speaker will present its own screen, and only the speaker will have the video, the camera on. So the others will deactivate. And I hope it was clear enough. And now I'd like to give the floor to the first speaker, that is Maurizio Ferraris. And again, we'll explain you what is Infinitech, why, let's say, it is sponsoring this, this session, and what is the innovative side of Infinitech. Maurizio, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll now try to share my screen. You have to stop your sharing, Vittorio, because it's not possible for me. Okay, thank you. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, Maurizio, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, I give you, okay, first of all, I'm Maurizio Ferraris. I'm the head of the European Innovation Projects for GFT. GFT is a multinational company. We are a big company. We are working a lot in innovation project for the European Commission, and today I will introduce the Infinitech project. Thank you, Vittorio, for the introduction. Really effective introduction. And after the Infinitech project, I give you an overview of the task force that we launched last year inside the BDVA task forces. First of all, I wanted to introduce you the background and the motivation of the activities regarding Infinitec and the task force in the digital finance context, European context. The background is the situation that we see is that we know that typically the financial insurance services has a conservative attitude. It means that they are resistant to digital transformation and technology disruptions. We have to take into account this point when we think about innovation, introduction of innovation in this market. The second point that I want to underline is that digital technologies are rapidly transforming the financial insurance service industry. This is an opportunity, and we have to address the friction between the conservative attitude and the new fintech and the new technologies impact on this industry. We know that during last year we observed that the majority of digital transformation applications are data intensive, and so we know that big data and big data technologies, IoT technologies, and artificial intelligence technologies are really important to introduce a disruptive application in financial sector. And financial institutions are looking for cost-effective application to change their business models, to innovate their services. For this reason, we decided to start an innovation project to address the realization of disruptive application for my financial sector. And we launched Infinitec. And to address this friction of conservative attitude and the digital technology disruption, we launched a community, a task force inside EBDVA to attract financial institutions inside the innovation European playground. This is really important because we wanted to attract to work with the real, these big companies that typically didn't work in the past in this context. What is Infinitec? Infinitec is a big project funded by the European Commission. Is a project funded inside the Horizon 2020 program. It's a flagship project with 50 participants coming from industry, academia, fintech, banks, and financial institutions. The goal of the project is to realize sandboxes and testbeds and to implement in this context smart, autonomous, and personalized services for financial institutions based on IoT, big data, and AI technologies. This is our goal. And what are the main the project goals and the pillar of our activities? First of all, we are working in an innovation context with an important player in Europe focused on innovation. And our goal is to go beyond the state of the art and demonstrate innovation, introducing novel concepts and new products and services in for financial services. We are working a lot with the market. One of the main points of the project is regards the participation of big financial institutions in the project to enhance innovation capacity, create new market opportunities, and strengthen competitiveness and growth of companies. The other point, I think that one of the value of the project is the execution capabilities, because in the project, in the consortium, we have a complementarity of the participants. It means that we are the companies in the consortium coming from the innovative side of the real world, the market, and big players that have the capacity to implement and realize testbed disruptive applications. The goal of the project, in summary, is to introduce new services based on big data, IoT, and AI, work with the regulatory regulators. For us, it's really important to be aligned with regulations and to influence regulators at European level for the evolution of the regulation in Europe for financial sector. And we wanted to stimulate additional investments. It means that joining with big financial institutions, we think that in this way we could launch innovative projects funded directly from the player of the market. What is the vision of the project? The vision started from innovation. Innovation, with our approach to introduce novel technologies and tools, technologies based on big data, IoT and AI. We are working on a flexible reference architecture that will map the disruptive pilots application that we are now developing inside the project. The other point, the other pillar, our vision and approach is execution. We are providing now, we are working to provide IoT and big data platforms, integrating a banking and finance system. We are system integrator. We have big companies that will integrate real banking finance system in the project. And we will realize testbeds, sandboxes that will be the base of the innovation pilots that we are now implementing. And for the market, we are working on innovative industry-driven use cases. These are use cases coming from our partners of financial institutions and fintech companies. And we are working to commercialize and promote this solution through marketplaces and exploitation activities that we will perform during the second part of the project. This is the big picture of the participants. On the left side, you can see the innovation that are the innovation partners, universities, research centers in Europe that will bring innovation contexts into the project. From execution point of view, big large companies in Europe are working together to implement the pilots and the test beds. And from a market perspective, we have finance, insurance institution, big player in Europe, together with fintechs and emerging companies in the financial playground scenario. This is the overview of the project. The core, as I underlined before, are testbeds and sandboxes. We are realizing modular and configurable sandboxes. We are working on 8 testbeds and on the standardization of sandboxes for big data and AI in digital finance. The cookbook to realize these testbeds, sandboxes, and pilot application foresee different ingredients. The first of all, the technology. We are introducing leading edge big data and AI technologies in our reference architecture. Big value in the project are data assets because thanks to the participants, we have important data asset, larger volume of data coming from the customer management application, thousands of transactions, and petabytes of IoT data. This is one of the main value of the project. We have big data, real big data, that will be the base for the testing application, to test application and pilots in the test beds. And to complement this, the technology, the big data, we have global leaders in ICT and finance that are working together to realize this project. And we take into account, it's very important, the regulation. We are working on regulatory tools with the coverage of the mainstream regulation in finance. And our ambition regulators for the evolution of regulation in the financial sector for the next 3 years in Europe. This is an idea of what we are doing about the application. We are working from the left side on banking application. We are working on payments. Payments is one of the main topics of the evolution of the application in the next 2-3 years in the financial sector in Europe. We are working in application in capital markets investment. And last but not least, we are working in the insurance sector, delivering interesting pilots, disruptive pilots. These are the main picture, the big picture of our pilots. We are working on pilots on the front office side of the application of financial sector. We are working on biometrics, authentication technologies, It means the communication between the financial industry and the customers. We are working on the middle layer of the application. It means that we are working on KYC disruptive technologies. And we are working on the security, cybersecurity side of the information management of in the financial sector. It means, for example, anti-money laundering solutions. And in the backend, we are working on the engineering the processes of the financial sector. It means that we're working on disruptive business models and services, and we are working on the main processes of the big financial institutions. In summary, we will deliver 8 testbeds and 50 high-impact pilots. Sorry. This is the roadmap of the project, divided in 3 main phases. The first, completed last month, is the goal of the first phase was the gathering of requirements from the end users. We defined and we gathered the data set for the testbed, and we worked on the architecture, the reference architecture, and the building blocks from the technological point of view. In this phase, during this phase, in this period, we are working on specifications, components requirements. We are developing now the test beds, and we are working on the machine learning algorithms that will be used for the pilot application. And in the third part of the project, next year, we will work on sandboxes, components development, and prototype development. At the end, we will have a prototype ready, and we will have a really disruptive application and solution for the financial market. After this introduction, I will give you an overview of what is the task force. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, our idea is to start a community, to launch a European innovation community focused on big data AI in financial sector. For this reason, we proposed to BDVA to introduce new task forces inside the task forces of that BDVA launched some years ago. And at the end, we started this new AI big data for financial sector subgroup within the application task force of BDVA. What the stakeholders of this task force are obviously the community and infrastructure of BDVA. The task force participants, we are many experts and companies in Europe are working with us and with Abilab, GFT Abilab. We are the coordinator of this task force. We are working together, these companies, these customers, to create a vision for the innovation for the digital finance and financial sector innovation for the coming years. The objectives are the community building. It's really important. This is why I underline that this is important because we are trying to attract financial institutions inside this community to work with us for a new initiative, innovation initiative in the coming years. And the other objective is really important is the white paper. This is a position paper. We are now preparing a paper in which we will analyze the situation of the innovation in digital finance sector in Europe, and we will give a vision for next years. And in the meanwhile, we are working, we are collecting use cases from projects, from innovation projects like Infinitec, and from other projects coming from the European Commission financed project, funded projects, or market projects that we are now analyzing with our partners and clients in Europe. This is the goals of the white paper. First of all, we want to set the scene, to define the main challenges and opportunities related to big data AI in the financial sector, with a vision towards 2025. The other point is a contribute. This is an ambition to the research and innovation agenda. It means that we want to try to influence the Commission and other partners in Europe to launch a new initiative for innovation in financial context. And we wanted to capitalize the results from flagship from many projects in Europe, and mainly from Infinitec project that I presented before. This is the structure of the white paper. We worked during the last months on the market and trend analysis of the financial sector. And now we are working with our colleagues on the vision for a new digital finance for Europe towards 2025. The contents of this vision will be based on the evaluation and exploration of highly innovative trends and challenges in applying novel technology in digital finance. And we are working to understand how to influence and how to use as a tool the innovation agenda of the European Commission and the agenda of the main financial institution in Europe. We are working with them. We have to analyze what are the main topics, the main goals of the next 3 years, and from a visual view towards 2025. In the annex of the white paper, we are collecting use cases, and that is coming from the activities in Infinitec and other project in European project. Okay, if you obviously during the last part of the meeting, we will have the opportunity to give you answers or more details if you need related to task forces and use case in Infinitec.
Thank you, Maurizio, and thank you for your introduction, your explanation of the Infinitec project and also the task force. And I would like now to give the floor to Martin Serrano, who will explain you a bit how the FinTech world is working and opportunities and the innovative trends. Martin, the floor is yours.
Hi, Vittorio. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity and thanks for the organizers, especially Martina and Sina, so for the great support. What I will do today is give you some perspectives and opportunities that we have been uncovering during the project duration. We have been obviously analyzing the technology around fintech technologies, banking sector, and insurance companies. And we have discovered some interesting facts. We have learned a lot, and obviously we will want to share this one with you today. So my name is Martin Serrano, and I work for the National University of Ireland in a research center called Insight Center for Data Analytics in the west coast of the country. So I think I can summarize my inputs in these 4 points: digital strategy, digital society, and finance consciousness, which is one of the aspects that has been highlighted in this research. The testbeds and the sandboxes are separated in this particular presentation because I wanted you to understand the different approaches and how we are using them, the two of them, in the different aspects during the project duration and for the project results. And also I want to give you kind of a how Infinitec as a more technical perspective in the use of these testbed and sandboxes are using for facilitating the solutions for the financial sector. To start with this digital society transition, or what we call evolution, it's important to highlight this financial or finance consciousness. And when you see these 4 type of pictures in this range of age, immediately you start to think in some aspects related to life. I might ask you to consider which will be one word that defines this picture in terms of financial sector, in terms of financial activities. And probably many of you will go into this solution. So we will say plays. When you're a kid, you have just to play. You don't care about the money, but you just think in playing. When you go into this teen age, maybe study, and then you start to ask for money, you having your own kind of independency. And then when you go more than the work time, then you start to look at this experience before you go into a more mature age, right? So if you are thinking in this way immediately, so you are thinking in a traditional thinking way. So modern times, based on this financial consciousness, is telling us that kids, teenagers, and obviously people in the range of 20-25, they are already thinking in investing. And obviously at the age of 35, and even before 50, people are already thinking retirement. You might see this is a little bit early for what we are traditionally thinking, but this is what we are living today. And obviously, if we are in a forum with maybe professionals on human behavior, they might not see this one positive, but this is not the case. We are in a financial sector, in a financial technology, which I have uncovered that this is the best way to progress in terms of financial perspective, because you will get independence very early, you will get trained and you will get expertise, and then when you get your working time, you will have a lot of experience, and which is not happening today in this traditional thinking. So this is just a reflection on how today we are living this digital society and the financial consciousness in our domain. And this is also another transition in this thinking, right? So we have what we call the institutions in the past, or traditionally banking in the past, when all these different departments, different activities in the bank, within the bank, and for us as a customers. And in the other side, we have what we call the emergence of this digital human banking system. So all the applications, all the services are online, from savings, for instance, financing, retail accounts, payments and transactions. And many of us, I mean, even if we are not in this transition, or we are already immersed in these modern times. Now, the question in here that I will launch is, are the banks catching up with this speed? I will say some of them, yes, the ones that are emerging, online banking, but the ones that are traditionally thinking in the models in the past, they are not catching up with this speed. And this is an example. So in the past, you used to request a credit for a car dealer, and then the car dealer obviously can process for you or buy you, or can send you into the bank to look for a loan or for a kind of a plan. And then you might get your dream of your car or your assets in a specific period of time following this process. Today, this has changed completely and dramatically to the fact that any teenager can buy a car online and can get it in the next 2 or 3 months as most, if this is a brand new car. So, and there are some cases already that teenagers have paid this or have ordered these cars with no even money in their bank accounts. So this is kind of the way we are now facing up this transition, right? And it's nothing to be alarmed, it's nothing to be against that. It's just the transition towards a new era called digital society, and with more financial consciousness. And this is precisely the point. So now, how disruptive is going to be this one in our financial world? So forget about all this at the moment. For this intelligence, this human humanoids or androids. This is not about the disruptive human financial world. Also forget about these digital twins and someone processing your transactions online, for a machine doing it for you. It's not about that. Essentially, it's about this. So this is just an image that can reflect the 50 most operations that all of us, do in a daily basis. Obviously, not all of them in one day, but it's simple to understand that if you choose one line just as an exercise, and you go from left to right or from top to bottom, each of them are transactions you usually do in a daily basis, from bank buildings or from opening your account to a more kind of the credit card payments, or even online payments, mobile banking, wallets in your mobile phone. Maybe you can get some loans or some immediate loans, what they call speed loans, express loans. You have also some cash sometimes. You see, all these are the 50 most transactions that in the banking sector, in the financial sector, we are doing, and all of them can be in your mobile phone. So this is the type of digital disruptive, human financial world that we are living today. And maybe just to go ahead with the topic in terms of how we are confronting this one, and then map to how Infinitec will do that, or we help to support this disruptive financial world. Last year, I had the opportunity to chair one of the sessions in the FinTech World Forum in London, and I was sitting in front of leaders in banking sector, leaders also in the financial technologies online systems, or like trading online system, and we couldn't resolve the question of what is fintech, right? So because there is a fintech disambiguation in here, and I would like to quickly just go towards the 3 main concepts that we were discussing that year, and hopefully by today we can go ahead with this consciousness of these three different areas. So in first instance, the bankers are thinking like the fintech is this kind of a market sector. So when they can promote, they can create digital markets, they can incursionate new services or even new products, financial products, obviously. And the second one is the fintech can also help to scale off financial solutions. So they are still thinking, bankers are thinking that they are the center of the universe and they will do this one. And apologies if someone in the forum is coming from the bank, but this is my perception from this forum in last year. And believe me, there were only banking sectors over there. So the third concept in this business market sector was that the promotion and the innovation can be done towards the fintechs. So I think that's correct. It's a cross-domain, it's a cross-sector initiative, and obviously they were very clear on that. In the other side, in the opposite, in the right-hand side of your screen, you can see that the financial services, fintechs means financial services. And then at the end, we are here confronting different services, different initiatives that are not precisely the definition of the market sector. These are services that might exist already, like cryptocurrencies. They might be services that might exist already as a personal services, personal accounts, or loans. So you see, there are many services that overlap what we call the disruptive financial world. And beyond that, the third definition that I learned and we were discussing last year was the technology side. So fintech is more a technology element. So testbeds and sandboxes were kind of one of the main elements in terms of a financial service technology. You see, there are three. The combination of them obviously creates a more complete perspective on what exactly fintech means. And whatever you are working, either from the market sector, from the financial services, or from the technology side, be aware that all this together will create what we call the digital financial world. And this is what we are precisely working in Infinitech, trying to find the best synergies and the best solutions, combining these three main concepts. Now, going a little bit more into the Infinitech challenges and how we can address them in terms of solutions. So we see that big data is our main enabler. So in financial sector, as in many other domains, the big data is the main assets. We also see some sort of a light in terms of artificial intelligence, which I will not go into this because if I start to talk in artificial intelligence, it will take me another forum, another hour to do that. What we will do here is just see the dark side of this artificial intelligence, which are services, solutions, and frameworks. And of course, what we see in this dark side of the artificial intelligence and in between big data and AI is the knowledge-based frameworks that intelligently will provide some solutions based on data. We also see some sort of technologies or framework technologies that we call platforms that is calling towards interoperability of the same data. So we can see here now three main elements that we are confronting in the project, which is obviously the knowledge-based management systems, the frameworks that will interact and interoperate, and of course the exchange of information. And the main problem here, as you can see, is the ownership of the data. So who owns the data? And at the end, all these examples in fintechs, as a technology side, is the multi-tenancy. Who owns this data and who will pass this ownership at the end of the day? So let me just go into details on these big data solutions. I'm putting here just a summary of what we can do as a community. And to answer or try to solve this multi-tenancy data lakes or multi-tenancy about the data is to provide some sandboxes as an alternative. It's not the only solution, it's just an alternative to validate. And I will come back to the means of sandboxes. Obviously, semantic aggregation is a solution for these sandboxes. Also, another solution or another approach is to have more disruptive services and platforms. Again, platforms or frameworks. And then obviously here's when the testbeds can come as a support. The testbeds are more related to technology and platforms, as I will come later on with more details. And then we have in the very deep part of the big data technology, the linking of the data, the mapping as a technology enabler. And of course, this is the main participation of the main core of this project. So enabling this linking between different data to provide what we call the multi-tenancy of the data ownership. And then, of course, as a main part, we have the security and the governing part by definition. So this is more or less the framework, the legal frameworks, and most likely the platforms that big data will be achieving on that. There are just some topics in here. I'm just kind of unfolding these buzzwords into a more specific technologies, modeling and taxonomies, languages and formalisms, applications and services, the databases and information management system, which is a must. And then we have what we call the assets and the added value from the project towards addressing these challenges, which is data transformation and processing, analytics and visualization. And then we have also what we call a more intelligent system like reasoning, inference, algorithms, and of course the production of intelligence, the answers to all many questions. Now, if we understand that security and privacy is also one of the major challenges, and that's why I keep it separated from the challenges, we need to understand that in the financial sector, we are confronted with 6 points, mainly. Financial fraud, which is one of the main problems, and the list in here is based on some statistical results. Banking account thief, so someone trying to steal your credentials and then get into your account. And then money laundering, which is one of the main problems in the big macroeconomics, and identity thief, so which is happening almost every day to almost everyone, at least in your lives. And then personal data breach and terrorism funding. So all these things are part of the problems. Now let's see what is the reality, right? So we are very, very skeptical to use technologies, but me as a technologist and as a pro solutions in terms of technologies, I will say that we are in a safe zone, because if you can see here, 50% of the companies had over 1,000 sensitive files to share. So it's not really 100% of the information that is in risk. 57% of companies are experiencing social engineering phishing attacks. So it's pretty much the companies are in the safe zone relatively with the 100% of the population. And then obviously these practices of cybersecurity are going to exceed a lot of money, but it's at the end is something that we need to live with. I mean, there is no security system that exists that can protect everyone or everything. And then we are surprised, or you will be surprised when you see the last part from this Tech Radar report, which is essentially the 90% of these problems in cybersecurity are contributed to human errors. You see, the technology is not really the risk, or is not really the problem. It's more or less the culture that we have, or the adaptation that we have towards these digital systems or digital era. With this one, I want to just give you the perspective on how we are going to address that. From now on, I will just take a few minutes more from my time to conclude or to summarize what we call Infinitech approach. So first one, we have testbeds. So as a testbed, we need to understand this is a software program that provides some accessibility to a physical or to a virtual environments, to provide obviously testing capabilities, to provide development, to provide new product introduction, but also to run services and processes that needs to be validated as a solution. So remember, here is, before I go into the market, before I go into the production mode, I need to verify my models, my data. I need to see if everything is compliant with some regulations, but also I need to test the collaboratively environments that I am designing as a test bed. And of course, you can go into different areas, right? So lending, payments, personal loans, money transfer, any service can fit into a test bed environment. The idea is to have the increase of the productivity before even going to that. In the second approach, we have sandboxes. So sandboxes is more like a new culture in terms of addressing needs. First is promoting the innovation towards cross-sector activities, software programs that will facilitate the small-scale real test. You see, it's not like a test bed. In a test bed, you test the technology. In a sandbox, you test the solution. So it's more like a real applications. And then in life, you will be testing the innovations, and in a very controlled environment, you can limit the error prone or the error mistakes that can be taken either by humans or by machine development, etc. So these are the two emerging technologies that are incursionated in the financial sector. They are not new in the software, in the computer science environment, but they are new in the financial sector. And here I'm very, very happy to say that banks are not taking this one. I'm saying happy because obviously the more they are rejecting this technology, more opportunities we have to improve the banking sector from the Infinitech perspective. You can see here is a kind of a dense image, but in the central part, we have the experimental testbed for advancing solutions. And in the very right-hand side, you have the tailoring sandbox. I will put some loops, some kind of a lens for you to pay attention to this. With this one, I don't want to explain any of these aspects. What I'm just saying is we have by design in our architecture considering the sandboxes and testbeds as a main element to innovate. And of course, the different pilots that has been described by Mauricio before are addressing or are following at some point these methodologies or these approaches. With this one, I conclude. I will just would like to list the 10 more kind of trendy financial disruptive elements, from kind of automation to a more decision-making aspects in financial, to avoid more ubiquitous and even to have more alternative payments, but also some microservices architectures that will be cloud-based to address these challenges in the financial services. All of them and somehow has been analyzed, discussed, and some of them has been taken over in the FinTech project. The last 5 are only the disintermediation. So as you can see, there are many FinTech technologies, FinTech companies that are already applying this one, and they are very successful. Increasing the identity, the security, and the privacy, this is a must. And obviously the regulatory complexity, the openness and consolidation and collaboration, and of course the sustainable finance elements. You can see in this last picture taken from the last 2017 financial brand, we have the Deloitte, sorry, we have this open APIs as a concept. So this is probably the best way to understand where we are moving and where we are going to this financial sector. As I said before, banks are not really taking off, or they're not understanding this different concept. Maybe because they're still thinking in this fintechs as a workspace, and not as a technology, and not as an opportunity. But I think Infinitech will do a very good job on first making people understand, making the banking sector evolve, and also the promotion of all these documents and ideas will help the community of fintechs. So thank you very much. This is me. I leave here my contact details in case you want to address me directly, or I will be here until the last part of the session for more questions. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Martin. It was a very dense presentation full of concepts and valuable insights. I really like your definition of fintech, and also I hope that your explanation of testbeds and sandboxes are now making more clear to the audience what are these frameworks and technologies. I would like now to give the floor to Francisco, who will explain you also some major differences between fintechs and banks, and also we'll tell to you about open innovation hubs and other innovative trends. Francisco, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I'm so happy to talk after Martin, because probably my presentation is going to focus on some of the practical details of these collaboration approaches between fintech and banks, mainly with European banks, and which are the main challenge and the main technologies we are working with. So just to show to the audience some of the elements of the asymmetries that we work with when we start with our program. We are an accelerator based in Spain, but with connections in Europe, and we cooperate with banks to promote collaboration with fintechs all over the world. So when we start with this program in 2016, this is what we experienced: the dance of the elephants and the gazelles. This is not just focused on this sector. It's not just a question based on the financial sector, but also on all these histories of collaboration between big companies and small companies. Normally, banks are alert. They have a very, very strong legacy and compliance. They are slow, and they always have an answer in terms of, okay, we already do this. We don't need this kind of innovation. We don't need to make open innovation to develop new projects and services. That's what we experienced in 2016. On the other side, fintechs were small, very fast track developed, but not integrated, with not enough knowledge of data, how they can use data. And in most of the cases, at least it's the experiences we had, these kind of companies which are very straight and which are very focused on technologies and project developments, they always think that what they have, it's new, and it's really, really innovative. So when you try to organize this dance between fintech, which are gazelles, and banks, which are elephants, in the first meetings, it's not easy to structure the dialogue. In fact, this is what we had, some of the examples we had in the past. Most of the banks, of the big banks operating in Europe, but also in the States and Latin America mainly, most of these banks, they had in the past, it's 5 years ago, no more, open innovation programs, hubs programs, lab programs to cooperate, to strengthen cooperation with talent and with entrepreneurs. In fact, we call this stage of the cooperation between banks and startups like a marketing approaches, and we call this is like a game, because it's true that most of the banks, we have most experiences in Spain, like BBVA, Santander, also Caixa and Bankia, which are also there in the floor. They have open talent programs in Madrid, innovation centers, hackathons, factories, partnerships, agreements, competitions, venture days. But this was just, in my opinion, and this is also the hypothesis of our work, these kind of actions were in the beginning marketing and communication approaches. So in fact, what we are experiencing right now is that most of the banks we cooperate with them in the last 5 years are now moving to a more engagement programs with the startups and fintechs mainly. What we tried 5 years ago was to develop a new program based on the new principles and a new hypothesis of work in cooperation between our fintechs and our partners. So we create a special program which is called Insomnia Fintech. We developed this program in Spain with Bankia, but also in Latin America with more than 50 banks. So I'm used to be on the floor with CEOs from banks or presidents even, and owners of startups. So that's because we call elephants and gazelles, because this is a game. So what we did was we need to define a new methodology to make more efficient the cooperation between startups and banks. So we create this program, which is based in B2B approaches. In fact, we define Europe as the big lab of fintech solutions all over the world. Probably in the European Union, we have more than 44,000 solutions straight and focused on fintech and insurtech. And this is because our companies are small, are very focused in medium ecosystems, and we don't have all the money that the Americans, even the Chinese and the Japanese have to put through risk capital solutions in companies. What we have is a lot of small solutions able to test different proposals in a fast track view, and with a huge capacity to move from one sector to other. So we say, okay, why not inviting companies from artificial intelligence, from big data, from blockchain, from all over the world to develop fintech or financial solutions. And this was really, really, I think, a great success for our companies. We will share with you some examples later on. So we focus on B2B. The second point was the no equity approach. No equity is we don't invest in the companies we work with, and this allows us to be clear and to be independent. It is when we work with a bank, first step is the challenge definition, as you can see on the slide, in the upside. The challenge definition shows us which are the main topics, the main challenges, the main solutions, the main problems that the bank, a concrete bank, wants or likes to solve in cooperation with startups. So as we don't have investment on the startups, when a bank cooperates with us, what we give to the banks, what we give to the corporation is an independent rule or list with a rank of the main solutions all over the world. So this gives us transparency, and I think it's one of the things that Infinitech could also reinforce in the future. The third principle is co-creation. So we are in love with these methodologies that show us, okay, banks are big, they have a lot of data, they have a lot of clients, and they have a lot of distribution capacities or capabilities. A startup, normally they have a solution, a smart solution addressed to the market, but we need to create something new to adapt to the culture, the philosophy, the needs, the money, the budget that both sides have. So co-creation is developed normally through POCs or MVPs, and the idea is being able to develop something concrete and realistic in 3-4 months. Martin also mentioned the APIs and the sandboxes, all that kind of technologies and platforms are being very helpful to develop this bridge between banks and startups. 4 is non-stop coding. This is a non-stop battle looking for talent. So we believe, and this is the open innovation basis, we believe that talent can appear anywhere at any time. So we have a network which is called the Talent Route, and we use this network to invite the main European hubs to take part in the challenge we launch. And this also allows us to connect with the best startups, with the best fintech and insurtechs all over the world in a very short time, and also with the analytics of hub we work and cooperate with. So I also invite you and all the audience to have a look to the website of the Talent Route, which is a friendly network. It's open, it's free, and also it has a blockchain governance. So it's so fun also to cooperate with them. And the result of all these principles and points is that we are friendly. So proximity, honesty, and empathy are at the base of every partnership, and we believe on that. Just a quick view of the main solutions we work with and the main proposals we are approaching to the banks in the last calls we developed with them. As you can see, cybersecurity and all the solutions related with artificial intelligence and in growth, payments and disruptive payments probably are not increasing because main banks and also platforms and huge companies like Visa, MasterCard, they are also doing amazing things in this scenario and arena. And all that is related with solutions for SMEs, freelancers, and individual financial solutions, B2B, B2C, and user experience are increasing. If we move one slide further and we check what is happening with technologies, as you can see, artificial intelligence and blockchains are the main technologies which are on the base of the fintech solutions from Europe we propose to the rest of the world. In Insomnia, we believe that we should see the universe through technologies, not through sectors. Why? Because as I mentioned you on my introduction, if we have an amazing company working on artificial intelligence in the, for example, legal tech sector, why not moving this company to financial sector with mentorship, with new partners, with new corporate partners? The same with cybersecurity and blockchain. So what we do is we implement a huge scouting in Europe, but also in Latin America and in Israel, and we select the best companies working on these technologies. Once we have these solutions, we invite that companies to apply for the main open calls we have with banks. And this way shows us that in principle, the map, it was a battle. It was a battle between banks and fintech. Now the map shows us that we are not inside a battle. We are inside a collaborative model. Why? Because of the big tech appearance. Also, big tech, they are very, very strong on data. They have a lot of money, liquidity. They have everything they need to operate in financial services. In fact, they are doing so well in some of the countries. And now banks, they need, of course, a fast track way to cooperate with fintech, just to make competence to these big tech corporations. In fact, as you can see on the slide, B2B or B2B2C models represents close to 75% of the solutions we have in the European Union. What we believe on, something new, something that we can put on the table just to talk with you and to discuss with all of you guys and partners. Why not to develop a venture builder as a service? We have amazing companies in Germany. We have awesome companies in United Kingdom, operating in Holland, in Poland, in France. But when we try to invite that companies to develop POCs in Spain, this is okay. For the POC implementation, time is very short and investments are very, very small. But when a big bank from Spain asks that kind of companies, okay, guys, the POC is amazing. Even the MVP is also nice, but we need to develop something strong, and we need to develop something for the next years. So we need a partnership with you guys. These companies normally are small or medium companies. They are not global based. So what we propose is to create a venture builder with the ideas of external companies. We can create spin-offs at local level with the main equity, of course, in the ownership of the original company, but also with local partners that can develop and strengthen the cooperation with banks and other corporations and other corporates. So this is an idea, and we are on the process of definition of this idea. It's time for engagement. Engagement means that this is not the era of the marketing. This is not, we pass also the time of the cooperation, the communication programs. Now, COVID and also this crisis show us that we need to strengthen the cooperation and to go faster in this kind of relationships between small companies or startups, fintech, and big banks. So now what we have on the scenario, on the arena, is also big with big, cross initiatives between banks and big tech, between big tech and small companies, between small companies and big tech and banks. So competition is also co-competition. You can also see there some of the examples of this kind of cooperation between even banks and big tech. My last slide, potentials. So what could we develop with this virtual DIH provided by Infinitec? So very, very summarized, Europe is the biggest B2B fintech market. We have close to 4,000 solutions renovated with huge potential to be globally developed. So we need partners, and we can connect these solutions with more banks at European level, but also with banks in LATAM. LATAM is one of the biggest market for fintech solutions because of their needs. They are now looking for technology and innovation because they need to make one huge jump in the next years, but also United States. In the United States, the experience we have is that big banks, they have their own hubs, they have a lot of money to develop their own products, but there are an association of medium banks, which is also amazing and huge, and they need talent because they don't have the opportunity to pay for this in the States. So there's a new opportunity to us also. Now, as also Martin and Mauricio mentioned, we have technology, we have platforms, APIs, fast track programs. So this allows connection between startups and banks through the implementation of POCs, and all will be collaboration in the next years. So this is not just about banks and fintech. This is all the players are in the same arena, and connections are going to be huge in the next years. So we believe that our virtual EIH could also be one of the key platforms that we could put into the table to offer to these partners. Let me talk with you later about all these points if you have some questions, and also give you thanks for the opportunity you give me to take part in this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francisco. Again, very interesting. I hope that now the differences between banks and fintechs are more clear. And also thank you for your valuable insights about the DIH and the Virtualized Digital Innovation Hub of Infinitec. Before giving the floor to Marco, Martina should give you a link in the chat so that you can answer to a poll, to a survey that we are gathering, so that we will see the results of the survey at the end of the session before the Q&A. So I kindly ask you to check the chat of WOVA, and in the meanwhile, Marco, it's your turn. Marco, we'll talk to you about the perspective of banks and some of their innovative trends and applications. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, everyone, for joining this meeting. Let me share my screen so I can show my presentation. Okay. One moment. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marco Rotoloni, and in Abilab, I'm the coordinator of IT and Operation Competence Center and the coordinator of Artificial Intelligence Competence Center. Just 2 words about Abilab, that is the company I work for. Abilab is a consortium. This means that it's not it's not a company that is oriented to profit, only to profit, but our mission is to facilitate the dialogue and the interaction between banks, Italian banks in particular, and ICT companies, providing, first of all, research activities, so identifying interesting trends in technology and analyzing it together with banks and ICT companies, or developing use cases and experimentation involving our banks and our associated ICT companies. Of course, we are very active also in dissemination of results and of contents. In particular, we develop a lot of white paper of research and analysis of the market trends about innovation in the Italian banking sector. One of the core topics that we are discussing right now is about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is really a huge hype in the technological trend, in the technological sector, but also in the banking sector. The question that we try to answer is why now? Because artificial intelligence, and in particular machine learning techniques, are not something very new in the scientific world, because since the 80s, 1980s, the science is starting to develop solutions about artificial intelligence and developing algorithms about machine learning. So why now? For 2 reasons. First of all, because we have more data than in the past. And the more data we have, the more effective is to train a machine learning engine and to develop results that could be significant for many business targets. And second, because now we have the computational capacity that allows us to unlock the potential of the algorithms. So we can leverage, for example, on cloud, but also on new data architecture that are leveraging up the attention on artificial intelligence. Of course, the banking sector is at the first line in this development. We are facing a lot of trends that we discussed before. Also, the previous speech says something about the fintech phenomena and how banks are facing the digital transformation. But of course, one of the key aspects that are facing the banks is the openings of data. In the last year, the PSD2 directive in Europe obliged every bank to open its data about payments also for third parties. This is from one side a risk for banks because we are forced to provide our information also to our to other actors in the market, but of course it's a big opportunity because leveraging on open banking, we can develop new business models and new business services. What do we need to develop AI? First of all, it's important to develop a new culture because artificial intelligence is something that is not so clear understood from the managers and from the customers, of course. So we have to explain to managers what is AI and get conscious about the risks and the open issues about the AI implementation. Banks, as I told, are one of the more active sector in developing AI solutions. As we can see in this analysis that we develop analyzing 20 Italian banks, representative of more than 70% of the overall market in Italy, the AI is on top of the research priorities for 71% of banks. That means that almost the most important banks in Italy are investing a lot, are considering a priority the artificial intelligence. And about the different areas of application of artificial intelligence, we can say that the first area of interest is about the internal assistance. So we are talking about Help Desk 2.0 with the support of chatbots or the support of semantic engine in order to analyze a big amount of data and to support the internal assistance, maybe the assistance to the branches or to the personal bankers. Of course, there are a lot of opportunities around the marketing development and around the operations improvement, in particular when we add artificial intelligence on top to robotic solutions that maybe Italian banks are one of the more active banks in Europe about the robotic process automation of their internal processes and adding up artificial intelligence to these models. Of course, there are also other areas of impact of artificial intelligence, especially in security and especially in know your customer and anti-money laundering, where many banks already developed and already have in production solution about AI. What are the challenges of AI? I would like to spend at least 5 minutes just to discuss with you what are the main challenges that we are facing in improving, in developing AI inside a complex sector, a complex reality like the banks. First of all, it's difficult to understand how to measure artificial intelligence because often the measuring that we can build about the effectiveness of artificial intelligence are very technical oriented metrics, and managers have some problems to understand the meaning of these measures, and so it's difficult to explain with the metrics the effectiveness of an AI solution. In particular, when we talk about measure, we can remember that when you implement an AI solution, the result is not a result that is sure for 100% probabilities, but there is a component of probability inside. When you get a result, you can say that this is the result with a confidence of 80, 90, 96%. So understand the meaning of confidence, the meaning of probability is not so easy. And so that's why we need also to change the culture and to develop inside banks new competencies, new roles, new skills that are aware of AI and that can support the development of this new paradigm as an enabler of the banking transformation. Of course, there are still some problems about compliance because I would say later that the European Commission and also the Italian regulators are starting to think about the possibility to introduce an overseeing to the regulatory landscape in order to limit or to control some application in AI in a high-risk sector. There are some problems that we can discuss later, but the strategy of the EU is almost clear here. From one side, it's important to foster the development of artificial intelligence in Europe. From the other side, we have to be aware of risks and to be sure that companies that applies AI are well aware of risk and put in place some measures to limit those risks and to govern those risks. Other aspects that I want to discuss with you are, first of all, the ethics problem. Because especially when we use machine learning methods, those methods are not transparent by design. This means that the model starts from a set of data that we gave to the model, and the mathematics that is inside is implicit. The human is not someone that develop and instruct the machine to do some tasks, but is the machine itself that, starting from data and starting from the machine learning algorithm, build a predictive model of the reality. So there are two problems in this. First of all, if data are partial or contain previous human decisions that are dictated by prejudice, for example, that contains biases, the result of the model is partial or is affected to biases as well. Let's imagine, for example, when we try to use a machine learning algorithm to predict the credit scoring and to evaluate the scoring of a customer to be good or not payer for a loan. If we put inside the machine only data that are partial of the population, we can find situation in which the algorithm will exclude some part of the population, for example, the poorest, or for example, as happened in the US, excluding certain ethnies of population, only because the data that we gave the machine are not comprehensive of the overall population. And this can happen also if we base algorithm on wrong assumption. And so the machine can lead us to wrong decision, but only because we gave to the machine the wrong data. Second aspect about ethics that we have to underline is that ethic is not something that is valid at the same time with the same characteristic in for all the application and for all the global situation. For example, this is an example that is from an experiment of the MIT about the moral machine, as it's called. If we have to decide what should do an automatic self-driving car if it can cause an accident, killing, for example, a man and an old lady, or a woman and the baby, it's difficult also for a man to decide who should die, but it's more difficult for a machine. And the experiment of the MIT tried to train the machine using the choices that human do. So making a sort of worldwide statistic about what is the preferences of the humans, but it's difficult to do this because in different countries of Europe there are different ideas of ethic. For example, in Europe we prefer to save children, and for example in Japan or in China they prefer to save old ladies, old men, because they have different culture. So also ethic is not something that is widely recognized in all the world. Other aspect that is very important is the explainability, because the machine learning algorithms are sometimes a black box model, so it's difficult to understand why and to explain why the machine gave a certain result. There are some techniques that we are studying with the IAB of Abilab, but those techniques can also give, I would say, a local solution to a general problem. So we have to be sure about the fact that the machine cannot be transparent from will not be fully transparent. We have to put together with the machine also a big attention of the human oversight, because only if humans are in command or are inserted in the loop about a certain decision taking of machine, we can be sure that the risk of artificial intelligence are well contained and are we are well aware on it. Maybe I've not. I think I went sometimes long on my speech, so I just want to conclude about the main regulatory initiative on AI. Just to remember that the international discussion about this is very active. In particular, we have the European Commission that is working on starting from the paper developed from the high-level expert group on trustworthy AIs that identified 7 requirements for the trustworthy AI. They are starting to discuss on the possibility to introduce a regulatory environment initiatives for application of artificial intelligence. There are very different options. The first option is about the identification of a soft law. Other options are more related to identify mandatory requirements for some AI application, only limiting to the application on high risk sectors or high risk environments. To follow all these trends, Abilab launched the NIHub. NIHub is I would say a community of research, innovation, and open discussion that are involving the competence center on AI that are already present inside bank, the ICT partners, and also the university background. So we are collaborating with many universities. We do many things on the hub. So research, discussion, and monitoring compliance issues. And that's all.
Okay, thank you, Marco. As probably you can see, we are very late on the schedule. So we will probably have no time for the Q&A. I kindly ask to the last 2 speakers to stick to the time, because we will have to close at 3:30. So in that way, we could have the possibility to conclude both the presentations. Claudia, it's your turn. Shall I share the screen?
Yes, please. Thank you, Vittorio.
Okay. In the meanwhile, we will update the Slido with a new question so that you can answer the poll. Can you see?
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. So good afternoon,
also to everyone from my side. To understand pilot of Bank of Slovenia in the Infinitive project, which I will present. First, perhaps a short insight to who we are. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, so we are not a commercial financial institution, and we are not using technology to improve our profit, as Vittorio mentioned at the beginning, because we are the central bank in Slovenia. And our main focus is, of course, to maintain price stability. Therefore, we are a policymaker. We are responsible for financial stability, and therefore we are a supervisory authority. Actually, I'm coming from banking supervision department, responsible for AML and compliance. We issue or supply our market with cash, and we provide payment infrastructure. So target transactions goes through our payment infrastructure. And we are also a partner in Infinitive. We are actually the pilot leader. We will be the end user of our pilot or platform that we are building. And we will be also data provider. Some of the data will come from the banking department, banking supervision department, and some of the data will come from our payment infrastructure department. Okay, we can continue. Yes, so supervisory authorities are facing with a lot of challenges, and therefore we have to think about new technology and how to face those challenges that we have. So, of course, one of the main challenges is more and more data, so large quantity of data that we have to go through during our supervision. Due to risk-based supervision requirements, we have to follow different sources where this data come from. So there is a challenge of variety of sources. Our financial institutions are providing new products, new services. We have to understand them in order to supervise their compliance with regulation. I put here a picture from virtual services providers, and I have to say that this is for every supervisory authority quite a challenge. Because new AML directive requires that we, of course, supervise them also. So to understand the blockchain technology, to understand the services and the way of doing business for virtual services providers is one of the challenges we are facing now. Especially on AML and especially on money laundering, risks are emerging very quickly. If I only mention the, let's say, COVID-19 situation that actually led to human suffering and economic disruption. Well, for criminals, this is actually a business opportunity. A lot of international organizations report increase in fraudulent activities, in cybercrime, and in financial crime overall. And of course, regulators expect from supervisors to promptly react on those kind of risks to maintain financial stability. Okay, next slide. So more and more supervisory authorities are implementing new technologies to support them in their risk-based supervision. And a few years ago, Bank for International Settlements issued a report. They did a research, and supervisory authority used new technologies in two phases. so in phase of data collection and data analytics. And we in our project will use new technologies also in those two phases. So if we go to now to next slide, thank you. So yeah, we saw Project Infinity as an opportunity to embrace new technology in our supervision activities. So therefore, we are building new platform for AML supervision. And this platform, in phase of data collection, we will collect the data from various sources, as we do now, but we will do this with support of our distribution channel. These data sources will then be validated prior integration into the platform. And after the validation and integration to the platform, the magic will happen. That's why we are hoping. So actually all this big data will be enriched and sent then to different components on the platform. So we will have to detect and analyze any anomalies, to discover any risk patterns, and to calculate the risk. At the end, for the end user, this result will visualize into three tools. So we will have screening tool, risk assessment tool, and search tool. Screening tool will actually screen the transactions and will provide us with results of anomalies detected or high risk detected on the level of financial institutions, and alert the analyst about potential high risk. And the analyst will have option for a manual decision whether or not this is true or not. And then this alert will go to risk assessment tool. This is our main or let's say core business service. Risk assessment is intended to identify risks or which of the financial institution is the most exposed to money laundering and terrorist financing risks. I will explain a bit more later on. And then as a third tool, we will have a search tool that will allow us to look at the specific transactions or specific financial institutions. Okay, thank you. So this is an example of risk assessment tool, as I mentioned. So we started to work on our first prototype. And of course, we started with the tool that is the center of our focus. And data, of course, here are just imaginary, so that's why I can show it to you. So basically, we are evaluating the money laundering and terrorist financing risks of the specific financial institutions. We receive data about those risks, and we evaluate their control environment. And after the calculation, risk engine calculation, we receive the evaluation, what is the level of risk. So as you can see in the risk matrix, some of the banks are riskier than the others. And if we go into more details, let's say on the next slide, we can actually drill down to, Vittorio, perhaps next slide. Thank you. So we can drill down to actually to the level of numbers and data and information that we receive from the external sources. And we can, and this is very important for us because if we can evaluate which financial institutions are more risky that are not, let's say, that are not able to prevent money laundering properly, as also Martin mentioned, this is a quite a big risk, and if they do not prevent it properly or on timely manner, well, we have to give our resources to that financial institution. And with this risk assessment tool, we will not only be able to see which financial institutions should be in our focus, but we will also see on which level. So are they having problems with inherent risk? So are they gathering high-risk customers, for example, or they have issues in control framework, meaning that they don't have good policies or technology that doesn't prevent the risk that they are embracing. So I was really quick because Vittoria, as you said, we don't have enough time. But if there will be any questions afterwards, I will be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia, and sorry for pushing you, but yeah, unfortunately we are very late. And Ramon, yeah, the floor is yours. I will skip your introduction because you have 10 minutes, and please go ahead with your presentation. And sorry for the time constraints.
No worries, no worries. Thank you, Vittorio. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So I will present myself. Okay, I'm Ramon Martin de Pozzolo, and I work for the Security Innovation and Transformation team in CaixaBank. And I want to before all, thank you so much to all the Infinitec partners and Vittorio to invite us to present this use case that is related to the IBDAS project, and you will see during my presentation why it has a relationship with Infinitec. I want to discuss about how to explore your big data, the challenges and constraints of a highly regulated sector that we are, the financial services. So first of all, I want to, oh, come on. Okay, I will explain a brief introduction of CaixaBank and IBDAS, and then explain that how IBDAS works and the use cases of CaixaBank in this project, and the results and the lessons learned, and how it can be applied to other entities and to other projects like Infinitec. CaixaBank, we are one of the leading financial institutions in Spain, actually in Europe, but we're becoming even bigger with the merging with Bankia. And we have a lot of information that we are collecting as all the other banks. We have 14 million customers. We have many channels in which we are collecting the data from our customers, and we are using all this big data from time ago, and where we are kind of proud of how we are using the big data. But not everything was that delightful, and at some point we had this proposal to join the IBDAS project, in which they propose us to have a self-service big data platform to do the big data analytics outside our premises. And taking into account your previous presentations, Martin, Francisco, you pointed out about those privacy concerns and the usage of sandboxes or other solutions for doing this kind of stuff inside our premises or outside our premises. But how can you do this in a secure way? I have to remind you that I'm part of the Security Innovation and Transformation. I'm part of the digital security department in CaixaBank, and not directly managing the big data tools, but we are assessing that all these tools that we have, we are we have the compliance with the regulation and are providing secure analysis of the big data and maintain the privacy. So that we have that in the one hand, and on the other hand, it's a huge infrastructure, and as other banks will have these data lakes, data pools that we have, and it's a little bit lack of agility on how we process all this data internally or how we adapt to new solutions. So that was interesting for us, but how can you do this outside our premises? So IBDAS proposed to have it in an approach with synthetic data that I will explain. So IBDAS, as a brief, we have 13 partners. We started in 2018, and we are finishing this year. And we had all partners around Europe. We have here in Spain, Atos, Telefónica, a supercomputing center in Barcelona, and ourselves. Okay, the leader is fourth in Greece, but have a look at it. What we wanted really is to have this complete and safe environment for big data experimentation, and to have it as a sole service solution, so that the real owners of the data, the people that have the knowledge, the field knowledge of the data, can use it without great knowledge on AI and big data analytics. So that will be the main point. But the difficulty here for us is, as I said, for the financial sector, this privacy of the data. So we offer these expert self-service and develop mode for approaching those different level of end user profiles that we can have accessing the data and the big data analytics. So approaching this big data analysis to the people that are really people that know about the data that they are using and has this field knowledge. The thing is here, we can fabricate synthetic data. We wanted to analyze in IBDAS, we wanted to analyze if synthetic data can be useful for doing those big data analysis and extracting new information, and also testing new solutions, that testing them internally and integrating them inside our infrastructure would be a nightmare, or at least it's a long term in most of the cases. So we want to first test it in a more in a sandbox, for example, or any other environment to test it. Fabricated data could be a good way to do it. But during the project, as I will explain in the next slide, we moved to another approach for tokenizing the data. By tokenizing, I mean encrypting the data and just keeping the keys for decrypting this data and doing all the big data analysis with the encrypted data. And what can you do, and what can you not do with that? And we allow as well the stream and batch processing analytics over this data, and visualize the results. All of these within the same platform. Okay. The perspective how we see the IBDAS, taking into account what can be done inside and what can be done outside our premises. So we have seen IBDAS in that way. We maintain our data pool, storing the data, and you tokenize. You made the process for automatically tokenize some kind of data, or on the other hand, to do this data set receipts for generating the data, doing the big data analysis with all these already pre-developed algorithms, pre-code up algorithms in IBDAS platform. So you extract these insights and then you apply it, you decrypt it, and you apply it in updating our data pool, our data lake. Okay. Thing is that we realized when we were doing it at some point of the project that the synthetic data was very useful for assessing the performance of the new tools that we are assessing, like IBDAS, but other tools as well. So we use the tools that IBDAS provided us for generating this data, not only for testing IBDAS, but for testing other tools outside our premises, and testing the performance of it. But it was very difficult to arrive, to achieve a point to assess the accuracy of some big data analytics doing by these tools with the synthetic data. We change our mind and we do the approach. Okay, we have to share real data actually, but we have to do it in the best way possible and the best secure way. We define several different approaches depending on the type of the data for encrypting this data and being able of analyzing it with encrypted data. There are some solutions that already do that as well, but we give some guidelines of how we can compare, for example, categorical or text or numerical fields with this tokenized data. We did it with two different industrial use cases. The first one is the one that we use synthetic data, and we validated the usage of synthetic data, and we compare it with the tokenized data that we also applied to this use case. In that first use case, what we did is to collect information of the connections to our online banking, and see if we have relationships between partners, taking into account this the point of connection of these customers. We do this, I remind you, because of security reasons, in order to enforce any the fraud prevention. And we have connections between these users. Normally it's because they know each other, and we can assess that an eventual bank transfer from one to the other, it's safe. So it's a way to streamline our checking of bank transfers between our customers. And we did two other use cases in which we only use tokenized data, and I will show you here some.
Ramon,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but we just have like 1 minute. Then we have to close.
Some snapshots, and I said more or less all the things that I want to say, but some snapshots of the platform. Okay, and how can you directly see the connections between the users. And my conclusion is that synthetic data was useful for testing these new solutions, like in a sandbox. It will be another type of solution for doing this. At the end, we need to do this process of anonymizing the data by tokenizing in other ways to really analyze those solutions in terms of accuracy. And some of the benefits that we got, that at the end, we got this time reduction on accessing the data that we have and streaming and facilitating the access to other external users to our data, to our real data in a secure way. And the surprise here is that we hope to be part of Infinitec very soon. We are part of the amendment that we have done to the European Commission, and we will apply this experience and knowledge that we got in IBDAS in a new use case, in a new pilot in Infinitec, in which we will we want to take profit of the generated knowledge and also the tools of IBDAS for looking for a broader use case in financial fraud, looking for financial fraud patterns, and taking profit as well of the expertise and the knowledge of the partners in Infinitec for having more complex models and also analyzing more complex data sets. Okay, sorry for being that fast on that, but okay, the time constraints. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramon, and thank you to everyone for joining the session. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the speeches were very interesting and took longer than expected. So we will not have time, of course, for the Q&A. But I encourage you to write us if you have any questions that we can answer you offline. And I thank you again for participating in the session. And again, I encourage you also to contact all the speakers if you want to have some advice or you want to discuss about something. And I also thank you all the speakers for your great speeches and presentations. And thank also to Martina for hosting this webinar and apologies for being late.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you all.
Thank you.